On Thursday is where shoulders and back session begins. This is Decentralized Nutritional Science in the lens, context, and frame of structural violence and economics. Anyway, between 200 to 300 repetitions of movements amidst perceived scale of 7 out of 10 on the RPE scale. Recapping from our previous video presentation features, this will be a choice of one of the 4 following options. The first of which is either a set of resistance band movements followed by diamond push-ups, so as to encourage a good combination between push and pull movements. Either that or a brisk walk, and then followed by a mid to high intensity run with a speed level anyway between 15.0 all the way up to 17.0. The goal here is to pretty much reach 70 calories expenditure in just under 5 minutes on average. Third option would be to do farmer walk lunges. So in these farmer walk lunges, instead of us using dumbbells, we are using a straight bar, either using 25 to 27.5 kilogram straight bar on the back throughout 4 laps back and forth. Fourth and last option would be a ski high intensity HIIT machine. We're trying to reach anywhere between 30 calories to 40 calories energy expenditure in just under short bouts of no more than 3 minutes. However, keeping in mind that this exercise is actually a lot more difficult than it really seems. Just to quickly reiterate, this is to recondition and to gently perform a series of muscle fascia release aspects on various areas of concern. Usually that would be the lateral obliques, the core, some parts of the core, and the hip flexors. But however, generally speaking, it should not be rushed in any way, shape, or form. Once again, just to briefly recap on the various types of foam rollers, usually the ridged version or the rough textured version is probably the more preferred version. Refer to that as the smooth or the rounded version, because of the fact that it may actually that the ridge or the textured version actually confers a more direct response. Arguably speaking, this may actually constitute an even quicker and or sooner muscle fascia release over the smooth or the rounded version. However, once again, this doesn't mean that the rounded version is in any way ineffective, though both are nevertheless are effective, and both promote circulations just the same. The very first resistance training exercise for shoulders will be still a compound training section, in which this will be either a Smith lunges, anywhere between 35 to 40 kilograms, or shown in this case an aristocrat's bell squats using anywhere between 17.5 kilograms to 20 kilograms on each side. So basically all this is just a variety of a bell squats, a dumbbell squat, but this time we are using 2 bell squats instead of 1, and that this is actually resting on our shoulders instead of straddling it in between the legs. And the resting time here is, once again, pretty short, no more than 45 seconds, depending on the level of connective tissues and joints resilience overall. Perhaps the main reason why this author actually uses and or prefers the dumbbells to be just slightly behind the top of the shoulder deltoids is because of the fact that it's a matter of individual preference for stability and leverage. Conventional advices seems to predicate surrounding the idea that the dumbbells must be situated slightly at the front rather than at the back. However, that may yet be open for individual preferences and individual biomechanics. And so begins the first shoulder-centric exercise, in which this will be an Arnold Press routine, anywhere between 17.5 kilograms to 20 kilograms as the highest maintenance record attempts. Arnold Press is actually an interesting set of movements in that it incorporates and challenges deltoids as well as shoulders, but also on the upper extremities of the pectoral regions at the same time, especially during the lower range of motion sections, as we can see here. What we see here is the highest maintenance record on average, which is 20 kilograms without the need to alternating down to the lesser intensity to that as 17.5 kilograms or even as low as 15 kilograms, just to be respectful to the connective tissues and the joints' resilience recoverability in between sets. And that also, not many people realize is that Arnold Press, given if it's heavy enough, interestingly also constitutes an aerobic challenges as such that during the pectoral squeeze section, especially at the bottom, actually incites an interesting challenge. Once again, the resting times here will be no more than, say, 45 seconds to 50 seconds, depending on the state of the joint's resilience. So next up is the standard Lat Pulldowns, in which this will be an alternating intensity exercise between 55 kilograms to 60 kilograms back and forth from one set to the other. Once again, in a fashion of 6x5 to, if the joint's resilience allows, up to 6 repetitions. Although that is considered to be unrealistic because of the fact that lat pull-downs, depending on the heaviness and the intensity rating, is actually nevertheless quite a taxing exercise, especially given that there is an aerobic challenge to it as well, especially if the time under tension here is being practiced, especially at its lowest range of motion, as we can see here. So once again, resting time will be no more than 40 to 50 seconds. However, keeping in mind that the order of this exercise may yet to be shifted around. So depending on the equipment usage and the traffic around the gym, it may not be possible to actually maintain this order of exercises. So hence, this standard lat pull down may yet be shifted around to the later exercise numbers. It could be exercise number 7 or even as late as 8. So by that time, joints exhaustion and connective tissue capacity exhaustion would already be apparent by then. So hence, usually no more than 57.5 kilograms would be pretty much the pragmatic limits if we were to trying to maintain a productive volume of raw within the context of 6x5 to 6x6 regimen. Once again, just a bit of disclaimer, this video has to be taken on a separate day of training. The reason for this is because of the fact that it is almost impossible for anyone to accurately record an entire full day of training schedule, considering just how much exercises and how much training exercises there is that we need to record from start to finish. Things get in the way. Also, don't forget the technical problems that may ensue throughout the training session. Things don't get recorded, or that things may get corrupted in error, and or the fact that the recording has to be repeated, and so on and so forth. Next up is the classic shoulder press, but this time using the smaller machine setup, which is using anywhere between 55 to 60 kilograms. However, what is convenient about this particular machine is that it actually allows two different types of grip settings. One is using the standard military bell press positions, but there's also a hammer grip portion in which that, interestingly, imposes more challenge on the uppermost pectoral regions. That's an interesting feature to keep in mind. Intensity-wise, this will be anywhere between up to 60 kilograms. However, On the hammer grip portions, that will actually be a lot more difficult to coordinate from start to finish. So hence, usually a lower intensity region is actually preferred. So that will be anywhere between 50 to 55 kilograms. What we can see here is just the standard highest maintenance record, in which 60 kilograms on the wide military grip standard classic position, and then followed by an alternating 55 kilograms hammer grip position. Once again, the most difficult and challenging part will be the portion whereby time under tension here, in which in this case here, and then slowly and gradually keeping the tension all the way down to the bottom, especially on that very last repetition. So here in this T-bar bent over rows, what we are seeing here is actually the lighter, the lower but safer maintenance attempts, by which that it actually hovers anywhere between 35 kilograms to 42.5 kilograms. Once again, depending on the connective tissues and joints resilience. Of course, this is only once in a while deloaded sessions, and by no means that this is actually a maintenance record. The higher maintenance record attempts can be seen anywhere between handling anywhere between 42.5 kilograms and then also all the way up to 47.5 kilogram attempts. So once again, as a bit of disclaimer, that all the videos that is presented throughout this feature YouTube uploads is going to be a mix between the lower but the safer volume intensity regions and or levels between RPE scale of 5 to 6, but also there will be plenty of footages and or segments showcasing the much higher intensity challenge attempts. T-bar rows can be quite a difficult exercise because it not only challenges all those tension holds and or time under tension components, but also the cardiovascular component, in which it may be quite taxing to some individuals, including this author. So hence, at the end of each set, there needs to be at least a few additional seconds, just trying to recuperate so that we can actually prepare for the next set. Next up, which is exercise number anywhere between number 5 or even up to number 7, depending on how busy the schedule is, will be the standing, not the seated version of Rocky Bradfords. This is actually an interesting set of movements in which this author actually prefers the standing up version, although he first began during his first few years of volume training using the conventional sitting down position, just for a bit of a safety. However, the standing up version actually confers more interesting challenges, especially on the use of stabilizing muscle regions of the core, as well as the obliques as well, in which it not only tests the explosive power, but also the amount of time under tension possibility, especially from the topmost position and all the way down at the bottom. Now, in terms of intensity wise, definitely no further than 10 kilograms, keeping in mind that due to the number of very complicated movements, not only from the pectoral upwards, but also from the back, it can be very, very exhaustive. So hence, be mindful over the fact that this is not and never is about egoistic showcase. It is all about endurance and productivity to train intently. Once again, the resting time is anywhere between 20 seconds to no more than 35 seconds on average. Once again, all this presentation is actually not a fitness training advisory per se. However, if there is one remotely of a suggestion that this author may ever give out, is such that a lot of these very complicated series of movements, especially those that involves behind the neck and over front of the neck, may actually constitutes a significant pressure on the elbows joints. So hence, for those readers and or trainees who have existing elbow or joint problems, may be wise to just go slowly, and in all cases, always begin with a lighter intensity overall. So this is where the middle or the halfway recuperation session is given, temporarily settle down, and to take in an intra-workout ergogenic aid, aspirin. Once again, none of this video presentation is ever going to accommodate such a lengthy debate because there's always going to be some elusive benefits as well as elusive disadvantages surrounding the usage of NSAIDs, aspirin, ibuprofen, paracetamol, to name a few. Now, do all of them exert the same effects to all physiologists? Well, unfortunately, that remains an elusive debate. So once again, all this actually pretty much necessitates the need for individual journaling, individual exploration, without being ever being entrapped towards that as eternal fear-mongering. Science should be effectively and inevitably and ultimately a matter of individual exploration and, of all things, authentication between non, low, and high amounts. And then next, we have on the Smith machine, military incline shoulder press. What we can see here is a maintenance record on 20 kilograms between 6x4 to 5 repetition attempts possibilities, with some tension hold possibilities as well, especially down at it from all the way down and then explosively all the way up. Resting time will be anywhere between no more than 45 seconds. Usually that is the case, and depending on the connective tissues exhaustions at this stage. If there is, once again, if there is one remote suggestion, would be to always take your time to make sure that the distance between the bar and the neck must be just right to the point whereby it must not obstruct the entire movement, and yet also it must not be too far away either. And this, unfortunately, requires a lot of shuffling around back and forth before the exercise may even begin, in which that should allow the effectiveness of allowing the full range of motion to be exercised from start to finish. And also, it allows minimal joints, elbows, challenges, and or the amount of pressure that it may actually impose on some individuals, especially those who already have had elbow joint problems. There's also another variation that other people prefer, and that is to do with the incline angle of the actual bench. So once again, it's very difficult for this author to actually determine what this particular angle here as we actually see in this footage. However, it must not be too low to the point whereby it may exercise the wrong part of muscle groups, bordering that towards an inclined chest press, in which that is what we do not want. However, it must not be too high either to the point whereby it is almost difficult to coordinate the entire range of movement. So somewhere in between the middle is pretty much something that is the sweet spot. However, that remains a highly individual tinkering around when it comes to adjusting the right position, the angle, and that is the distance between the bar and the chin. So suffice to say, the aim behind all these adjustments is to ensure that the lowest range of motion, it should be without significant stress and or pressure. So, and then next we have the upright bar rows on the crossover machines. So this will be anywhere between 25 to 27.5 kilograms in an alternating fashion, 6x5 to 6x6 repetitions with time under tensions, especially from the topmost position and all the way down. So resting time will be anywhere between 20 seconds, but no more than 35 seconds. Depending on the busy state of the gym, this exercise may be substituted with another shoulder-centric exercise, in which what they call isolateral rows and or pull-downs, simulating to that as a lat pull-downs, but it is more of an angle, on a more frontal upwards angle as a starting position. Isolateral pull-down and or rows, anywhere between 17.5 kilograms to 20 kilograms, 6x5 or up to 6x6 challenge attempts, depending on the connective tissues and the cuff resilience state at this point in time. This exercise challenges the upper back strength as well as, also conveniently enough, all the upper arms region, the biceps, and in some cases, the forearms as well. So once again, resting times is anywhere between 30 seconds to 45 seconds, depending on the state of readiness, emphasizing the time under tension negative opportunities. However, the given intensity must be light enough to the point whereby this range of motion can be achieved, but also must be obviously heavy enough to make sure that it actually elicits a meaningful muscle inflammatory response. We still have one more exercise to fulfill. The choices of this will be either one of the finishing accessory exercises, as we've mentioned earlier in our previous videos. So that will be, just to quickly recap again, either a CC squat of superset, 20 kilogram holding positions, and then followed by hammer grip back bells, either that or in other rounds, another superset rounds of resistance band movements, followed by the diamond push-ups to encourage a little bit of cardio push and pull movements. Or alternatively to that, we can use the custom push press machines on the crossover machines. However, there's this one more option that is actually worthy to raise and to take mention, and that is the reverse crossovers. So we're going to use that in this presentation. A reverse crossovers on the smaller crossover machines. Basically, this can be thought of as the reverse chest crossover exercise. So instead of us actually pushing forward, in which that is a predominantly a push mechanism exercise, but this time we are actually doing it the reverse. So it is actually a pull movement, predominant based off mechanics exercise. Not only challenges and exercises the shoulders, the front deltoids, and the sides, but also the core, the stabilizers, and the overall posterior chain in general. So what is shown here is a higher set record attempts in which this is actually taken up to 7 sets. However, with a lower repetition range between 4 to 5 repetitions, because of the so many complex movements that is at play here. And also don't forget the time under tension opportunity challenges to make things more authentic of an overall productive training experience. Just in case if anyone who hasn't realized that they can do just one more training exercise in which not only it challenges the psychology but also the physiology of almost everything, this is one of such exercises. So having done all the exercises, including that as the finishing accessory, now it's time for yet another finishing the day with the foam rolling session. Once again, paying attention to keeping our patience, to restore and to recondition all the connective tissues, as well as also to promote the muscle fascia release and to restore muscle tissue hydration status to ensure that the circulation remains in optimal condition at all times, post-workout wise. So that concludes the third of the 4-day training in the life of cyclical keto plus intermittent fasting principle. What matters at the end of the day is not about frivolous debates and or arguments surrounding low repetitions versus high volume training being the more qualitative winner or loser, so to speak. It all leads back to the question of training intently, not training intensely. Live it forward, and thank you for watching.